All right. Okay, today is Monday, the 21st of November. And as it says, today and tomorrow, we're going to continue on with the MERN stack project. And Wednesday will be a lab period and no taping will be done. All right. And of course, we're off Thursday and Friday of this week. All right. So let's just get to it. Now, just so everybody is aware of this, you probably already are, which is fine. But if you do go out and run this now, so if I view terminal, going on, let's see. Oh, okay, that's fine. CD to front end. So this is kind of where we left off last time. Now, I'm not sure with anybody if you got as far as I got or not, but what I did do was I went out and for day 2 that we spent on this, I updated the GitHub repo. So if for some reason yours isn't or wasn't working, then hopefully that'll help. All right. And let me get where I am in my here over here. I'm working off 2 machines, so I've got another okay, I've got another set, or I've got some notes on one machine. I've got the picture displaying here on the other machine. All right. So let's see. Okay, I think that the next thing to be doing here, and I don't know how well this is going to work. I mentioned this the other day, but we're going to try it anyway, is rather than just saying 9 from 126 reviews, we want to show how many stars there actually are in there. Now, this would work much better if we only had a 5-star review, but we've got a 10-star review. So I'm going to do it this way. Like I said, it may look funky. It may push the 126 reviews onto a new line. I'm not sure yet. All right. I was going to run through and do a bunch of this stuff this weekend. Other things got in the way, so I didn't. We're going to take our time here and hopefully everything is going to work the way that it should. I guess we'll find out whether or not it does. All right. So in here, and let me shut this down a little bit. Okay. So in here we have, you know our setup already, or you should. Okay. So we've been working basically on the front end. We're going to start doing some work very soon on the back end. And the reason that we're going to do that is right now, what we're doing is we've got a file on our front end, and that file is movies.js, which is on the front end. You know what this file is. We've talked about this before. That's where we're getting all of our data from. What we're going to do eventually is we're going to make a copy of that file and we're going to copy it to the back end. All right. And then we're going to make sure once we copy it to the back end, we're going to start setting up. We won't have to use Postman now, but it's going to almost look like what we did with Postman as far as how we set it up. But we want to end up reading that data. We want to read it from the back end. Why? Because that's the way things are done. All right. And we want to get to that point by tomorrow at the latest. And then after that, what we'll do then next week is we're going to bring Mongo into this. And rather than having a movies.js file, we're going to go in and we're going to create our database and we'll read right from the database. All right, that's where we're moving towards. Okay, just so you're aware of that. So let's see. I want to get to my movies.js file here. All right. And this is the stuff that we had a little bit of problem with last time. But like I said, I put a thing out there that works. So if you have to work with that one, you know, to help you, that's totally fine. All right. So let's see. What I want to do is I want to start making some changes and some additions in here. All right. So what do I want to do? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to come in here and we're going to be basically putting in ratings. All right. But if you look right here, we don't have anything right now called rating.js. We're going to make that, not this second, but we're going to make that. All right. And the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to import rating from ./rating. And you'll notice it's not being shown right now because it doesn't find it because we haven't created it yet. All right, so let's see, what do we have here? So we're down here. We've got all this stuff here for the number of reviews. All right. And what we want to do is we want to do some replacing in here. Like I said, rather than having it say 9 from 126 reviews or whatever, we want there to be 9 stars. All right. And then have it say from 126 reviews. All right. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to come in here, and after we got our card text here as a div, this div that's in here right now, we're going to remove this and we're going to replace it with our own stuff. All right. So I'm just going to get rid of that just for now because we're going to be adding our own stuff in here. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say value equal, and I'm going to put in here movie.num stars. And again, if this doesn't make a boatload of sense, just bear with me. I think when you see it, it'll make more sense. All right. And then text equals, and we want a backtick in here. And we want to say movie dot number reviews. So again, when we haven't gotten there yet, but once we do, whoops, let's see. Oh, that's got to be a $sign. There we go. No, why is it giving me an error? Text equals $sign movie dot number reviews. Well, that's correct. I don't know why it's not showing that. I know why it's not showing that. Okay, let's fix it. Let me check right here. Something looks funky, but we'll fix it. As div num stars value equal movie dot num stars text equal $sign movie dot number reviews. And then card text. Ugh. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go on. I'll try to fix this during the break. But again, I'm tired of us getting hung up and I don't want us to get hung up. So what we don't have right now either is we don't have a num stars. All right. JS component right now. So what I'm going to do, we're going to make one. So under components, so right here, I'd like you to please come in here, right mouse click on here, put in a new file and call it numstars.js. And make sure, like I said, it's under components. All right. And we could do the shortcuts, etc., but I'm just going to type it out because it's not too much. So I'm going to import React from React. I'm going to type in num starts. I don't know why. Right. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, this is going to be quite a bit of code. Now, with all that said, what I'd like you to do, if you wouldn't mind, please, for a couple minutes, is to watch me because I'm going to put in the code and then I'm going to copy it about 9 times. And I think doing it that way is going to be a lot faster. And I think that if you watch me do this, I don't think you're going to have a whole big problem with it. All right. So that'll return. Right? Okay, what this is basically going to say is if the value is greater than or equal to 1, like you see right here, all right, then we want to show a complete star. Otherwise, if it's greater than or equal to 1/2, I'm sorry, if it's greater than 1/2, yeah, greater than or equal to 1/2, we want to show half a star. All right, so in other words, we're going to be putting in here between 0 and 10 stars. No movie has 0 stars, no movie has 10 stars. But what we're saying here is we'll start with 1. If we had greater than or equal to 1 star, well, then we have to include a star. All right, that should make sense. So if this is true, remember the question mark colon means do this. If it's not, then we have to check to see if it's greater than or equal to half a star. And if that's the case, okay, we're going to put in a half a star. And if that's not the case, and that's star. If that's not the case, okay, that it's greater than or equal to, we'll leave it. It won't be colored in, for lack of better words. Now, like I said, good, bad, or indifferent, we have to do this a bunch of times. This is for 1 star, but I'm going to go all the way up to 9. So I'm going to grab this right here. Everything that's within the div, all right, not the div itself, but what's within the div. So all that, I'm going to copy it to the clipboard and I'm going to start pasting it. So now I put in another one. All right. And with this second one, now I want to say if it's greater than or equal to 2. And right here, if this is greater than or equal to 1.5. It's the same code, but we're going to keep changing the numbers. All right, so that's for a 2-star. Then I'm going to paste it in again. And now I'm going to say if it's greater than or equal to 3, and this will be 2.5 stars. All right, and I'm just going to keep working my way down here. So that's 3. Paste again. This will be a 4, and this will be a 3. All right. Paste again. Then this will be a 5, and this will be a 4. Paste it again. This will be a 6. This will be a 5. Paste it again. And I mean, you can see hopefully where I'm going here. All right, so that one was 6. And actually 9's the last one, so. And 8.5. All right. Now, that's all fine. Ideally, at least, what that's going to do is that's going to bring us, all right, did I lose my div? Son of a gun. There's the beginning div. Where's the ending div? Yes, I did. All right, so that should hopefully at least give us all of our stars. All right, and that's good. Okay, but we also have to come in here then, and we have to put another span in here. And in here, it's going to say text. And what we want to do, if there is text, we want to show the text. And if there's not text, we want to show nothing. What am I talking about? If it's a brand new movie, it hasn't been rated yet. So we won't have anything for stars, but we don't want any text there either because there haven't been any reviews. All right. So we could do another question mark colon in here, but what JavaScript has done is they've added a shortcut. I'm going to show it to you and then try to explain to you what it is. Right? This is a shortcut for saying basically text equal question mark text colon null. So in other words, if there is text, show it. And if there is not text, don't. All right, just about finished here. At the very bottom, since this is brand new, we want to say export default num stars, not stars, Jeff. Num stars. So let's run through this quickly again, what we just changed. All right, came in here, and previously all it was saying was a number followed by from whatever reviews. But we came in and we added a new component in here. And this component that's in here right now will have a value passed in. So that'll be the number of stars. And it'll have a text passed in, which will be the number of reviews. And again, when I created these, I made all that stuff up. So if it says, I did take the number that was on the website, all right, as far as the number of stars, but they didn't say how many reviews. So I just made up the number. All right, and again, that should be stars because I'm an idiot. Nope. There. So the class name, the only reason this stuff is in here is so that when we finish all this, you can go in and add your own bit of CSS in there. So that'll be the number of stars. In other words, make them any color you want. All right, as an example. So again, this was checking for 1-star rating. 2-star rating, 3-star rating, 4-star rating. Let me double check here. 102132435465768798. So that handled everything. And this will, ideally at least, this is going to say how many reviews we had. All right, so hopefully, like I said, hopefully at least that made at least some sense. All right, now what we're going to want to do is, first of all, let's go back into movie.js here because there's still some errors. I got to figure out, because when we try to run this, it's not going to run. It does appear that some of the errors that were in here have gone, but it does not like this line. And I'm looking at my code. Because that looks correct to me, and I'm not sure why it doesn't like it. But when I put my mouse over here, it says that it is expecting this, but it shouldn't be this. It shouldn't be. That's wrong. All right, but that's like what it's looking for. So. Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to figure out what that is because it's not gonna run with that error being there. But I'll try to look at it during our first break. All right. Not sure what the problem is right there. I think that's right. All right. Now, hopefully by now, if I go back out here, and don't worry about that, and I go out to npmjs.com here, all right, we've looked at it enough that if I go out to React router DOM, you've at least got some idea of what this is. There are a lot of really good websites out there that will explain this to you. One that I recommend, is I was showing it to you last week, is Kyle Cook's Web Dev Simplified. He's got a thing on React Router version 6 in 45 minutes where he talks about React Router DOM. But again, it's the idea here is what we're doing is we are telling React when we go to a certain path, all right, basically the route it should take. All right, so if we put in slash, what do we want to have show? If we put in slash movies, what do we want to have show, etc. All right. The other one we've looked a little bit at in here, but not really very much, is there is a React router bootstrap. All right. Integration between React router and React bootstrap. So there's other things that you can use in here as well. All right. So I want to make sure that I've got this. Okay. And I don't want to, the minus S, just so you know, that's good. That's making it a site-wide dependency, as opposed to the minus D like we did, which was a developer dependency. The minus S isn't used very much anymore. But the problem is, good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of the documentation for this stuff, it's NPM's own documentation, but they don't do a great job of keeping it up to date. Not sure why, but they just don't. So I'm going to grab this part, and I'm going to come in, and I want to be on the front end, which I think I am anyway here. All right. Now this was running. There's nothing wrong with it, except I've got those 2 errors from what you already saw. All right. But I'm going to stop the run here, and I'm going to do an npm I, and I'm going to put in React Router Bootstrap, and just, I think I've already got React Router DOM, but just to be sure, doesn't hurt anything. So I'm adding both of those, React Router Bootstrap and React Router DOM. All right. And let's go in and double check. So I'm going to look at my package.json. There's React Router Bootstrap and there's React Router DOM. All right, so good. They're both in there. All right, close that. And next I'm going to bring up the app.js file that's right here. All right. And we're going to make some additions, some changes, etc. So what do we have here? Well, we've got import container from React Bootstrap. All right. Well, there's a few more things that we're going to have to put in here. First of all, we should be importing React from React. All right, because there's just a lot of functionality and stuff that we're going to be able to use from that. Okay, so there's the first thing. Next, I'm going to import browser router. And I showed you this last week. Usually they give it an alias and they just say as router, but you don't have to do that either. Do you want to use the word browser router or just router? So, and this is, close this, from React router DOM. All right, we've got our container, so there's nothing new there. We've got our header from our components header. We've got our footer from our components footer, and we've got our home screen, but we've now added that movie screen as well. So let's import movie screen from screens and movie screen. I thought we'd made that already. Maybe we have to make that yet. We'll see. All right. I think we're going to make that next. Now, what's the difference? This home screen that you see right here, that's the thing that you saw when we ran the program. It showed all 10 or whatever there was of those movies. On the other hand, when we bring up movie screen, what movie screen is going to show is when we click on an individual movie, it should show us all of the intricacies for just that movie. All right, so it'll be one movie specific, for lack of better words. All right, so in here, all right, and you don't have to change this, but I just kind of like writing them like this. So const app equals, and then our fat arrow. You don't have to do that. It doesn't make it run any better. All right. It doesn't make it run any worse. But the idea behind using that is just the fact that we are now using ES5, ES6 module specific stuff. All right. So now we're going to come in and at least attempt to configure our routes. And you probably have already done this, or maybe you don't have it set up on yours, but notice if I come in here, I'm going to type in here router, and this one's going to automatically change. So as soon as I type in router, you can see the one below changes. All right. And if you don't have that, there is an extension you can add. It's like an auto end type of things, or auto close, I think it might be, auto tag close or something like that, that I just found screwing around in here one day. All right. So we're about to put in our routes. We've got our header, got our main class in here. We've got our container, but in our container, this is where we're going to make a couple changes. All right. So from here, I'm going to change this to route path equal. So this says when we go to just with a slash in there, the component should be home screen. All right. And Oops. Like that. There we go. And when we go to /movie and we give it an ID, you know what that is now, /:ID, then the component should be equal to movie screen. And again, even though we haven't written this yet, so it won't work, what I have here, hopefully at least, does not confuse you at all. The first route just says that if we go basically to home, for lack of better words, it should show us everything. But rather than going to home, if we do pass in, excuse me, if we do pass in an ID, it should show us just that specific movie. All right. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's do a file save all here. And I'm going to bring this back. We've got this folder called screens. And right now that only holds our home screen. That's all that's in there right now. We're going to right mouse click on screens, choose new file, and add our movie screen. So the home shows everything. Again, the movie is only going to show us just an individual movie. All right. So let's just put in the stuff that we're going to need. What was that? RAFCE? Is that right? RAFCE. There we go. All right. So we're going to import React. From React, we've got a const movie screen. And in here, this is where we're going to have the individual information. So in other words, this will hold our movie info. I'm going to change that in just a second, but just so you know. So the idea is, excuse me, if we ran this, right now it won't run because of that goofy error that I've still got that I'll try to fix shortly. But if we run it where it does run, it'll show us all 10 or so movies. This is what's going to happen if we click on any individual movie in the list. All right. So what do we want to do in here? Well, we've got another import in here. And one thing we can report or import, I'm sorry, from React Router DOM is this link tag. And what we're basically going to be doing in here, all right, what we're basically going to be doing is setting up each movie so that each movie kind of becomes a link tag, for lack of better words. All right. So let's see. All right, for now, we'll come back to this in just a bit, but I'm going to do a file, save all, and then I'm going to open up my header.js tag right here. Now, what you may have noticed, probably have, is it's like, boy, you're just whipping around all over the place. Yeah, because you do something and you add something which affects something else, which affects something else, etc. And you're constantly jumping back and forth in here. All right. All right. So let's see. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and at the top, I'm going to go in and I'm going to import link, and I'm going to import that from React Router DOM. Now, you may or may not have been aware of this, but when we show these movies right now, if you do take your mouse and you put it on one of these things, all right, it's not going anywhere. It actually is doing a quick page refresh, but it's really not going anywhere. All right. So this is what we're going to want to do in here. All right. We're going to want to come in and we're going to want to basically change some of the stuff that's in here. And if you're like, I don't understand, well, then bear with me for a second. Okay. Right now, this is a standard href, not there, I'm sorry. There's a standard href, there's a standard href, there's a standard href. You know what href tags are, all right? But technically, those href tags that you see in there, those 3 href tags, they're not React tags, all right? And that's the difference between using an href and using a link. So what we're going to do is we're going to change those right now. All right. And how are we going to change that? Well, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a link tag right here. All right. And then I'm going to close it right there. Now that moved, it should have, but it didn't move this over. So I've still got in here navbar.brand. All right. And I still got the href, etc. Okay. But now with this navbar brand that we've got in here, we no longer need this. We should be able to do that now. All right. And it should automatically be linked for us. We're going to find out in just a bit. All right. And then we want to change the other two as well. All right. Those being the shopping cart and the login. So I'm going to come down here. And again, I'm going to put in a link tag. All right. And we'll move this, tab this over one and start making the changes here as well. All right. So what do we have here? I mean, what has changed? Well, you'll notice we've got a link here. All right. And on these links, this is just a regular link, but it's a stupid link. And what I mean is we have to tell it where to go to. So after the word link, we're going to add here container, and we're going to say to equals like this. And what that's telling it is when we click on this link, it should go, for lack of better words, to the home page. All right. Now we've got to do similar things down here and down here. But I'm going to give you a second so you can put that in. Ideally, what will happen is it's not going to really look any different, but as we move along, it's going to start acting the way it's supposed to act. All right, so we put in a link container, and that to equals, that is React syntax. That is the equivalent rather of like when you use an href and you tell it basically where you want it to go. All right, but it's the way you do it in React. All right, so let's go down to this next one here. And again, this will become a link container. All right, and now we'll say to equals backslash cart right there. So now we only need the nav.link in here. All right, we'll fix this in just a second. But what doesn't it like? Let's see. Nav.link. Name. Don't remember, I don't think it wants this, but let's see. Nope. Good gosh. Okay, so nav.link right there. And then we're going to put in another one right here. So again, we're going to have another link container tag right here. And it'll say now to equals slash login. All right. And we've got to move this again. So it's right there. And then we will move this and tab that over. And again, we don't need this. All right. If you can, all right, I've got most of it showing on the screen here, but try to wrap yourself around to what's going on here. We are using, rather than standard hyperlinks, we are using the React link tag to do what we want to have done in here. All right. I don't know any other way to say it than that. All right. And you can see now, because I said we're going to go through this, and come hell or high water, we're going to, after tomorrow, we've got, I mean, Wednesday's elapsed. So starting a week from today, we got 14 days. All right. And we got a lot of stuff to cover yet. There's a lot of code to write. Because what I'm going to attempt to do is have you do this, and you might do very little work on your own as far as prettying it up or whatever. You might only have a class period or so to do that, but we're trying to get a full-fledged MERN stack application. All right, that's the goal. All right. So let's go back and see if we can fix this movie thing, and then we'll take a break. So I'm going back to the, that might be where I screwed up. So let's see. All right, we're going to look at the movies after the break. Let's go to this movie screen here. All right, not much in here right now. So let's start filling this up. All right, so far we've imported React from React and Link from React Router DOM. Well, now we're going to import some Bootstrap, React Bootstrap stuff. And that will be row, column, image, list group, card, and button. Remember, what we're doing here with this is we are working on the single movie, all right? The single product, if you will. All right, so make that a little smaller. I guess I can't. All right, let me do a word wrap on here. So we imported from React Bootstrap row, col, image, list group, card, and button. All right, let's see how much of this we can get done. Then we'll take our first break. All right. Now, when we come through and we do this, I mean, right now it's just this return statement, and we're going to change that right now. But the system needs to know, all right, remember, this is a single movie. Just like when we did the React Movies app, not this one, but not the MERN one that we're working on now, but that single React application, that when we, for example, when you saw me put in Harry Potter, and it came up with 8 or 9 Harry Potter movies. And then when I clicked on the details button, it showed me the details for that one movie. That's what we're shooting toward right now. All right. So I'm going to come up here. And the first thing I'm going to do is add a line of code here. It's going to say const movie. So this is a single movie. All right, so in English, we're going to be doing a mapping right now. And that's, I don't know how it put media in there. I didn't put it in, but all right. So we're telling it to map through here. And basically we're telling it to find the match. So if we, got one of those movies and we click on The Godfather, all right, we're telling it to keep searching until it finds the matching ID for The Godfather. Then what we're about to return in here is what we want to have come back. In other words, what do we want to show when we're doing this? All right. And I don't know if what I just said made sense or it didn't make sense. All right. There is actually quite a bit of code we have to put in here. So we'll start. I'll just go till 1 o'clock. It's 12:53. Then we're taking a break. All right, because I got to fix this error in this movie.js file. All right. So we've got our return in here. And again, I'm just going to use these fragments. So we're not putting in a div tag. It wouldn't hurt to put in a div tag at all. All right. And we'll put in a link here. And we're going to have basically the equivalent of like a go back button. So if you went to this and you wanted to go back to, so let's say that you clicked on a movie, oh, that wasn't the one I meant, you'll be able to go back to your list of movies. All right, and that's what we're doing here. In fact, let's just call it that. We'll call it go back or home page or whatever you want to call it. It really doesn't matter. It's your site. All right. Now we're going to start printing out. So when we get down to here, this is going to be printing out the information for the individual movie. That's what we want to print out in here. All right. And hopefully by now too, you remember all this stuff as far as I'm going to do a little bit of formatting on here, not a lot, but a little bit because as you change your screen size, you want this to adapt or at least start to adapt. You'll be, when you are working on this on your own, you'll be able, of course, to add more stuff in there if that's what you'll want to do. All right. Okay. So got this row here, and now we're going to start putting in columns. So this will say col MD equal, MD equals 6. All right. And we will put in here, whereas it would help if I spelled col right, wouldn't it? All right. So we put that in there, and then we're going to have image. This image right here, this image is this image right here. So we're using it from the React Bootstrap. All right, React, from the React, where is it? Yep, React Bootstrap. All right, so source equals movie.image. Always have an alt tag in here, so alt equals movie.name. All right, and we're going to put in here the word fluid because that'll stretch it appropriately, for lack of better words. All right, so that's the way the image is going to be set up. Basically, it's going to, on a medium-sized screen and above, the idea is this is going to take up, remember, we're working in a 12-column grid. This is going to take up half of that grid. All right, so with medium and above, that's going to handle that. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in, and I apologize, make that a capital C. There we go. All right. Then we're going to put in another one, col, and we're going to say MD equal 3. All right. And why are we doing this? Because again, We're trying to set this up so that it's going to look decent, at least, on any device. You're going to have to probably do some work to get it to look, but it should look okay on virtually any device. Let's put it that way. All right, now we're going to add a bunch of stuff in here. So I'm going to start by putting in a list group. All right, and we're going to say variant equal flush. Now, what the heck is that? That's basically how we're going to sit there and inform and make this work the way we want it to work. Variant is something that is used inside of React Bootstrap. If you remember when we went out to React Bootstrap, we looked at that with the button and we had variant there. All right. Okay, so let's start putting stuff in here. So inside of list groups, we put in list group items. And we'll start with an H3. Again, you don't like the sizes or the tags I'm using, put in whatever you want. Movie.name. All right. Oops. And that will be the first thing that we have in there. Okay. So that's the first list group item that we're putting in there in our list group. Okay. That'll be our number of stars. All right. But remember, we don't just need that. We also need the text in there. Right. And then the next thing that we're going to put in there is going to be figure out if we need that. All right. So the next thing we're going to put in there is the price. And remember this right here that I just put in here, this is a regular $sign. All right, it's nothing special. It's going to hold movie.price. All right. And then finally, the last one that we're going to put in here is going to be the description. All right. It is 1 o'clock. In fact, it's 1:01. So I'm going to give you a 15-minute break right now so I can attempt to go back in and fix this. I think I know what the problem is. All right. But I'm going to work on that during the break. And let's come back, please, at 1:15. Mm. Mm. All right, I looked at this during the break. I still can't figure out what the problem is. I tried making some changes and nothing I tried worked. So we are going to go on, but I'm going to have to fix that. So again, I guess what I'll end up doing is once I get it, if, you know, try to fix it again during the next break. But if I can't, then I'll have to go and fix it after class and put the latest iteration out on the GitHub repo. I don't know what's going on. Some weird stuff is happening with this. I'm not sure what. I mean, I think I'm writing the right code, but I guess maybe I'm not. All right. So we left off. We were on our movie screen file right in here, and we put in some stuff. So look at it this way. What we're saying is
Scott, you're not sharing your screen.
All right, thank you. There now?
It is, yeah.
Okay. So what we're saying is if you, again, imagine a 12-column grid, we're going to have the first 6 columns be taken up by the image. All right. And the next 3 are going to be whole different movie information. And if you decide later you want to put in different things that I have here, hey, go for it. It's totally fine. All right. Now, when we get down to here, when we're down this far and we put in that information, all right, eventually, not right now, but eventually there's going to be other things that we're going to want to put in. Now, I'm going to do this and maybe I'll be sorry I did, but I just wanted to show you something. All right. Like this. So if you can imagine that basically this is the screen we want to show. All right. So what I'm telling you is that basically in the first half of it right there, pretty much like that. All right. That is going to be or end up being what, so in here, what we're going to have in here is the movie image. That's what we're shooting for, at least. That's what we want to have in there. All right. So that's the first thing. Then what we'll have in the next 3 things that are in here. So make it about half that size. So like this, maybe, I don't know, something like that. All right. Then we're going to have the movie details. What do I mean? It's the stuff we just talked about right now. All right. So in other words, we're going to have, I'll just, in fact, let's just do it like this. We'll come into here and I will put in the actual details. All right. So in here, we are going to end up having all the stuff that I just mentioned to you. In other words, all right, we should have here the movie name. Right? And then we should have like, let's just say, it has 6 stars. So it'll be star, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, uh, basically from 126 reviews, something like that. Right? So it'll be something like that. And then next, we're going to have the price. I'm making up a price, but you get the idea. And then the description. This movie is about, and then whatever, ... All right. So that's the way we're splitting this up right now. All right. But what we'll want to put over here eventually, not this second, but we're going to actually start building it out right now. That is, I'm going to grab something and put it here. All right. And this, what we'll want to put over here. All right. And I grabbed the wrong one here. But what we're going to want to put out here is going to be our order information right there. So order info. So we'll want to be able to, so if you see this one in this, that you'll be able to order something here and it's going to throw it into a shopping cart. All right, and that's what I'm trying to show you in here. I'm just trying to make sure that you can kind of understand as I'm flipping around and doing different things, exactly what's going on, what we're talking about. All right, so we finished this first column. This was just the image. We finished our second column, and that's what we did right before the break. And again, that was all that movie info that I showed you. Now we're going to build the thing off on the right. So I'm going to have another col here with an MD equal 3, just like we did before. Right? And we're going to add some more stuff into here. All right. Now, again, this is going to be order information. And we also want to make sure that when we do this and when we come in and do this, we give the program a little bit of smarts. Now, you might say, well, what are you talking about? Well, right now I've got it set up that with every movie that we have in there, there are movies in stock. All right. So in other words, if I decide I want to order a copy of 12 Angry Men, there are copies in there. But what we want to eventually be able to do is when the person clicks on it, we want them to be able to see how many are in stock. So if for some reason you had a certain movie that you wanted to give out as gifts, and let's say there were 10 copies of it, we want it to show a drop-down list that'll show the numbers 1 through 10. It means that you can order anywhere from 1 through 10 of these films. All right. We also want to make sure that, let's say you order 7. There were 10 and you order 7. We want to make sure that the amount goes down then after you put them, paid for them, etc., that the amount in stock goes down to 3. All right. The other thing we want to do is, let's say another person comes in and they order 3 copies of the same movie. All right. Now there's none in stock. So we get another person who comes in and wants to order those. Well, then the button that we'll put in there to allow you to be able to order movies, that button should be disabled. All right. You shouldn't be able to order a movie if that movie is not in stock. All right. And like I said, I'm hoping that what I'm saying here, that makes at least some sense. All right. So let's come in here and we're going to do this by putting this into a card. All right. And just like we just did, all right, we're going to have a list group in here, and we're going to have some list group items. All right. And it's unfortunate that until I fix this doggone error, I can't show you how it's going to look. All right. So I will have to do that, like I said, as soon as possible. So, all right. And again, like I said, this is going to be ordering information. All right. So that'll be our first one. It's going to basically, like I said, it'll have the word price. And then a little bit to the right of that will actually be the price of the movie. All right. So this, again, like I said, this is the ordering information. So up here where you wanted to put movie information, you put things like the description, but when they're ordering, description doesn't really make any sense for something like that when they're about to make an order. So the next thing we're going to put in here is, I mean, we can call it whatever we want, but let's just call it status. And what we want to put in here is we want to show that there's copies of the movie in stock or that the movie's out of stock. All right. And how are we going to do that? Well, you may or may not remember. I'm not going to go back to it, but when we looked at the actual movie data, there is a field in there that's called num in stock. So if num in stock is greater than 0, there are copies of the movie in stock. If num in stock is not greater than 0, it should never be negative. But if it's 0, then we should be able to say out of stock. Right? So the way we're going to do that, yeah, right, is we're going to come in here and we're going to say basically if the movie dot count in stock, right, if that is greater than 0, it'll be question mark, remember, true action in stock. All right. And colon out of stock. All right. And we could pretty this up, I guess. I don't know why we couldn't. So let's see. Let's go down to here. Map up our question mark and our colon. All right. So what we have in here right now for the order information are two things, the price and the status. All right. So, I mean, what else can we put in here? Well, let's put in a button. All right. And with that button, basically it'll allow us to actually order. All right. So let's have one more list group item in here. All right, with a button. We'll make it block so it's nice and big. Type will be equal to button. And if the count in stock is 0, we want it to be disabled. So disabled equal movie dot count in stock equal 0. All right, so it'll be disabled in that case. Not sure why. Oh, that's because that should be an equal sign, right? There we go. All right, I don't have my ending button tag. We will in a minute, and that's why this isn't showing. That's why I'm getting an error right here. All right. And we will just say in here, add to cart. I mean, that's pretty much what it says most of the time. All right. And then let's have our ending button tag here. All right. So ideally, once I get that error fixed, as I just showed you, this is what you're going to see. An image, movie information, and then order information. All right. And like I said, at least hopefully that's what's going to happen. Right. So I'm going to do a file save all here. And then we're going to continue on. All right. I do have a prettier in here too for my extensions. Okay, just so you know, I mean, there's an extension in here called prettier, and there are other ones also that when you save, it basically removes blank spaces and it tries to format it for you. But that's good and bad. It's bad because it tries to format it for you the way that it thinks it should be formatted. All right. Okay. We're not done, of course, but for now, we're going to take a break from the front end and we're going to look at the back end. All right, so I'm going to grab right here under my source, okay, modules. Where are we here? Modules public. There we are. All right, we've got a back end, we've got a front end. All right, virtually everything we've been doing has been underneath or under the front end. We've done virtually nothing in the back end other than make a folder named backend. If you have not done that, if you don't have a folder named backend that's right under your root, please make one. All right, I'm going to keep this movie thing open because it's got errors in it, but I'm going to close the majority of my other stuff in here that's open just because there's a lot of clutter on the screen right now. Sure. Right. Like I said, it's my responsibility to fix that as soon as possible. All right. So now if I close this, so if this is closed, okay, right now, you'll notice that this is what's under my root, a folder named backend, a folder named front end, and our git ignore. All right, that's fine. But what I want to do is I want to be here. I want to be there in the root. Okay, so in other words, I'm going to go back to my terminal here. All right, and I'm going to stop the run and I'm going to make sure I'm in, not in the front end, not in the back end. I'm going to do a CD to dot dot. And where am I right here? I'm under MERN app, so I'm under right here. That should make sense to each and every one of you. That's where I am right now. All right. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my npm init -y. Now, this is not for the back end. This is not for the front end. This is the project's npm init. So in other words, I'm now going to have under my root folder, which is MERN app, I'm now going to have a package.json and a package lock.json. All right. What we eventually want to be able to do is to have two or the equivalent of two servers running, one that will handle the client and one that will handle the server. And if you say, I don't know what you mean, just keep watching. All right. Because what we've been doing is we've been using, if you remember, before we even started React, we were using what? We were using Node and Express, and we were running things on just about any port number we wanted to. All right. And that was handling the server side stuff. Then we got into React and we've been using port 3000, and that's for the client side stuff. Well, for example, let's assume for a minute that I'm going to have my server side stuff running on port 5000 and I want my client side or React stuff to run on 3000. Can I do that? The answer is yes. And if we don't get into that today, we will tomorrow. There is a package that's called concurrently that allows you to run both client side and server side the almost simultaneously. You typically start up your server first and then you run the client. So that's what you're going to see. All right. So I'm doing my npm init -y and I'm hitting enter here. You already know what happens here. I'm not going to go over a lick of that. You know what this is. All right. But before we do anything else here, I do want to bring up my package.json file. Why? Well, the same kind of thing we've been doing, and that is I want to get rid of this thing. All right. And I want to come in and I want to add a start and a dev start, but they're going to be a little bit different than the way we've done them in the past. So I'm going to first come in with a start. And I'm going to say node backend /server. So we're telling it to run the backend here. All right. And then we're going to have our dev start. right, let me put that comma in there. All right. And we're going to say, let me close this. Come on, close. There we go. We're going to do node mon backend server. Okay. Now, you already know this, whether you think you do or not, but we're going to have to go and add node mon in here because it's not in here right now. It's not in there as any kind of a dependency. Remember this right now, we're talking about things on the back end. So I'm going to do a file save all on here, and I'm going to close this. And then I'm going to come back into here. Again, I'm not running the program right now, and I'm going to do 2 npm-i's. So I'm going to start with an npm-i, and with the first one that I put in, I'll just put in -d nodemon, and that'll handle that one. And then let's do the other one. Well, what have we been including almost forever? npm-i express. Yeah, we're going back to the days of Node now. But what we want to do is we want to basically combine the Node stuff we learned in the first half of the course with the React stuff that we've been learning in the second half of the course. All right, and get them to basically run together. Let me clear this. Let me move this down. And let me double check again in my package.json here. All right. And there's my dev dependency I just added with nodemon. And there's my express that I just added. So that all worked. Good. All right. Okay. Now, again, I don't mean to talk down to you, but if you remember that when we used to do this, all right, if this was our folder, basically that was going to be holding our project stuff where we were putting server stuff in there, well, one of the first things that we did was we ended up right mouse clicking and creating a file called app.js. I don't want to call it app.js because we already have React files called app.js. So in my back end, I'm going to right mouse click, I'm going to choose new file, and I'm just going to call it what it is, server.js. All right. Now, if you were like, well, I want to call mine app.js, you could. It wouldn't hurt anything. It wouldn't hurt anything. All right. Now, what we are about to do is over a little bit of time here is we're going to create a folder under our back end that we're going to call data. And when we do that, we're going to go and grab what we have in our front end movies.js file. In other words, this stuff. Where is it? Oh, maybe I don't have it out anymore. All of that movie information that we've been working with. All right, we're going to want to take that and we're going to want to move that eventually by itself into the back end. All right, so first thing I want to do here is in my back end, I'm going to close this front end stuff, but in my back end here, right there, I'm going to right mouse click on it and choose new folder. And I'm going to make a folder that's going to be called data. All right. So my back end now has a folder in it that's called data. All right. Now I want to come down here and in my front end, I want to find that file. It's in here someplace. It's called movies.js. So I'm going to go under public. It's not there. I'm going to go under source. And sure enough, there it is. All right. So I'm going to right mouse click or click on the file, then right mouse click on it and choose copy. I don't need this to be open. All right. Then I'm going to go back up to my data folder here. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right mouse click on it and I'm going to choose paste. So what I have just done is I now have two copies of my movies.js file. One exists in the back end, the one I just copied. The other one is in the front end. I need two copies for just a little bit, because if I remove the one from the front end, the program's going to break. All right, but we will soon enough. Okay, so this is now, this file is in the back end. All right, now, again, if you remember, and I'm going to close this now, we don't need it for right now. I'm going to start doing a little bit of work in our server.js file right now. All right, and some of this should look pretty doggone familiar to you. All right, const express equal require express const movies, that's a new one, equal require dot slash data slash movies. That's the one we just brought in here. All right. And it should be inside of single quotes. Probably why it's complaining at me right now. There we go. Okay. Const app equal express. Const port equal 5,000. If you don't like 5,000, make up your own port. Up in there, but or process.env.port. All right. Put in our old app.listen port. If you remember this, and we'd say console.log server running on port just like that. All right. Now, you should know this, or you at least should be able to figure this out. If I come in here right now and I do a file and I do a save all right. Now, if I come down here into my terminal and I type in npm run dev start, and it crashed. What doesn't it like? Let's see. That's interesting. Okay, well, we're going to fix it right now, but it didn't like that. So I tried to come in and run here. npm run dev start, which should mean, because I'm right now, oh, I know what a problem is, I think. I got to go back to my root, and I'm not in the root right now. No, I am in the root. Doggone it. All right, so let's take a look in the root and let's double check that file. I don't want this. Why I did that, but I did. All right. So this was my package.json. Dev start should have said nodemon backend. It's not backend. I didn't put in my dash. Right there. That's probably why it blew up. If I'd have said npm start, I think it would have run. But since I said npm dev start and I didn't put the dash in there, I think that's why it didn't work. So let's check. So I'm going to do a file save, come back down into my terminal here, double check and make sure, yep, I'm at the home root. So npm run dev start. If this works when I hit enter, it should show me port 5,000 because that's where I'm running this off of. And it didn't. Of course, I get another error. So unexpected token export. I know what it is. Okay, we're going to fix it right now. All right, and that is, let's go back to this file that we just copied here into data, this movies file. Right there. Right, where are you? Where's movies? Data, movies, right there. All right. All right. Let's see. At the bottom of this file, I've got export default movies. All right. Well, you may or may not remember this, but when we were working on this stuff, we would say, when we were working on the node end, we would say module dot exports. All right. Module dot exports equal movies. Okay. Right there. This is the name of our file. Okay, so I'm going to do a file, save all. So again, we had there before export default movies. The problem is, all right, that's what you're using on the front end side, but on the back end, it's module.exports. Okay, so let me do a file, save all here, or just save, come back into here. All right, it still looks like there's a problem, but we're going to keep working until we get it to work. The problem is here. Let's see. Here we go. Clear. All right. PM run dev start. Still crashing. Movies is not defined. Now in here, I either have to make the one down below an uppercase M or make this a lowercase m, because this is case sensitive. So let me come down here and make that an uppercase M and see if that fixes it. All right, file, save all. And you'll notice my server is now up and running on port 5000. Let's go back and review what we just did quickly to make all this work. All right. All right. I copied this file. Okay, I copied this file. We don't need that comment at the top anymore. So I copied that file from my back end source folder. I'm sorry, from my front end source folder to my back end data folder. The reason that we're doing this is what we want to be able to do is, and we may not get that far today, but we will tomorrow. We want to be able to get to Axios and have our front end call this data file from the back end. Then we are starting to see, hopefully, the whole MERN integration where we are using, at least the earn part, we are using Express in here along with Node, and we are using React. All right. Then come Monday of next week, we'll bring in the M part of MERN, and then we will have pretty much brought everything in that we might need, all right, or we might have to use. All right. So that's all fine, but you know this. I'm going to show you this, but what I'm about to show you, you'll be like, duh. And I know you know this. But if I go out to localhost 5000 right now, you get your cannot get slash. You've seen this before. Again, it's a little bit of review, but you've seen this and you know it's because we don't have any routes. All right. We have no routes right now in the file that we've been working with. In other words, when I jump back into here, all right, and we go into our server.js, there's no routes here. It's doing exactly what we told it to do. It is printing the server running on port 5000, that's down here, and we don't have any routes, so There's nothing for it to go to. There's nothing to do, period. All right. Well, we're going to try something here. All right. So we're going to try and see if this works. All right. So we're going to do two things. We're going to add two routes right now. We're going to say here app.get, and this will be our home route. And hopefully you remember it's request and response. All right. And this will we'll just say hello from the back end, just so we're sure that works. So I'm going to do a res.send, and that's what I'm going to say. Hello from back end. That's it. All right, I'm going to add another route in just a moment. But for now, I want to put that in. I want to do a file, save. I want to go back out to here, and I want to refresh. And that's working. Now that may not seem like a big thing, but it works. That's a good thing. So let's give it something that will actually matter. All right. Now we could do this. We literally from right here with what we are about to do, we could do it right from the home page. But if you remember when we were working and we were doing the postman work, etc., we would usually have something like /API/movies or something like that. That's what we're going to do now. All right. So we're going to come in here and we're going to say app.get /API/movies. Again, we will add our, a comma, and then we will add our request and our response. All right. Okay. Then in here, we're going to do this. We're going to say res.json movies. All right. Now, what should happen is when we go to /API/movies, it should show us all of our movie information if this is working. So if you put that in, so you've got these two routes in, do a file, save all, go back out again to here. All right, refresh, it won't hurt, nothing will change there. But then come here to /API/movies. And there is our data. What I'm trying to do here is tie together what we've been doing all semester long. And that's why I'm doing it in the order I'm doing it, and I'm doing it in the way I'm doing it. Now, if I click here part or raw, that's all the data. All right. And if yours looks like that, then you just didn't add that formatter, JSON formatter extension in. All right. Because mine is parsed. All right. Now think about, not tomorrow, but next week. All right. When we start adding this and we put this, for example, when we put this that you see right there, when we put that into a NoSQL database, it's going to be up to us, because will we want to actually add the ID ourselves? Typically, no. But remember that when we don't, we get that really ugly ass, pardon my French, ID that's real long. I think that's something we can live with. Okay, let's go back and let's add in here. So I'm going to go back into here, and hopefully what I'm about to tell you, hopefully, all right, I like this over multiple lines, but it's not going to keep it over multiple lines, but that's okay. I'm going to grab this, what we just put in here, and I'm going to copy that whole thing to the clipboard, and I'm going to paste it right underneath here. Why? Because what I want to put here is, I'm going to put a couple comments in here. This will say, show all movies. All right, you just saw that. This one, and we're going to make a change to it, will say, show a single movie. All right. Now, in the past, when we just put a colon ID or whatever in here. We're not going to do it like that now. All right. We're going to do this. we're going to come in here, hit enter here. Oops. I'm going to get rid of this line that says res.json. In fact, we'll leave that in there. And that's going to hold just a single movie in just a second. But we're going to come in here and put in another blank line first. And we're going to say const movie equal movies.find. Right? So what doesn't it like? Doesn't like the word const. Why wouldn't it like the word const? Oh, because I forgot both of these. In fact, it's funny, the other one worked. There really should be, right there should be a curly brace that starts there and ends here. And there should be another curly brace that starts here and it ends here. Again, all of this that I'm showing you right now, everything that we're just going over right here, this is all review. All right. It's been a while since we've looked at it, but this should make total sense to you. All right. And the other one, okay, is right here. All right. So we're telling it to do a find. And what are we telling it to find? We're telling it that whatever ID we passed in, all right, whatever ID that we passed in, all right, should have the same, or it should match that. And I'm looking in here because like I said, I did a bunch of this stuff where I hand wrote it. All right. But it seems to me like we should have here a /:ID. I'll find out right now. All right. So I'm going to do a file save. And if this doesn't work, fine. I'll just go back and change it. You already saw this, that when we went here, we could put in just localhost :5000 and boom, we get hello from backend. We can put in localhost :5000 /API/movies. All right. And we get all of them. Well, let's try movies and I'll just grab 6. So I'm going to say localhost :5000 /API/movies/6. And we get just that movie. All right. So as of right now, everything that we're putting in here, it all works. All right. By no means is this perfect. And when I say this all works, I realize I still have the error, okay, that I talked about before. But at least we are making some progress. All right. Okay. All right. Just so you see this, and I want you to see it, okay? We're right here. You know what this is. I mean, I don't think there's anything here that's a big surprise to anybody. Plus, you know that if I come down to here and I go into my program here and I jump back into here and I do my view and I go to my terminal, you know, that's running. Again, that's no big surprise. I know you get that. I understand that that makes sense to you. All right. But what you may or may not realize, because we've never done what we're about to do before, and that is, I would like you to go over to your front end. All right. So for now, I'm just going to close up this back end. All right. I'm going to close my server.js. I'm going to close that movies.js. I'm going to close my package.json file. So I'm back in the front end here, right there. All right. Now, with what we're about to do, it may not work because those errors that I still have in that movies file, but we're going to try it anyway. All right. So in the front end here, remember the front end, we have our own in here in our front end, we have our own package.json. All right, and what do we have in here? Well, we've got basically everything that you get by default when you come in and you create a React project. So we get a bunch of testing stuff, some React stuff. We added in here, so our React Bootstrap, our React Router Bootstrap, and our React DOM, and our React Router DOM. In fact, I think that from what you see right here, what we added were React Router Bootstrap, React Router DOM. I think just those two, or these two right here. Everything else we got by default. So when you go in and you create yourself a React project, you get that stuff. But when you look in here, there's nothing else that's in here. Okay? And you might say, yeah, fine, big deal. It is a big deal because hopefully you remember, because this is one of the reasons that I had you do this in your assignments that are due this Wednesday, is there are two ways that we can attempt to have a client call out to a server. I'm not going to ask if you know what they are. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But those two ways are to use fetch and to use Axios. Fetch is built in. Axios we have to add. All right. So what I'm going to do in here, okay, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to stop this that's running right now. I'm just going to stop it. And I'm going to clear the screen. And I'm going to do a CD to front end. All right. And now I'm going to do an npm I. In fact, let me first close my package.json. So I'm going to do an npm I Axios and hit enter. You want to make sure you're doing that on the front end package.json and not on the one that's serving the whole project. All right. So now if I come back in here and I look again at my package.json, now I should see in here someplace, all right, I don't know where it'll be, but someplace in here it should have, unless this failed and it didn't look like it did, but somewhere in here I should have Axios. All right, I'm not sure where it is. I don't see it. That ain't good, but there it is, right there. We did not have that previously. All right. So now I want to show you something. It's not a gee whiz type of thing, but I do want you to see this. All right. Now, if I come back in here, and again, I might get an error when this comes up. Don't let it bother you. All right. But I wanted to show, what I wanted to show you was something in here, and that is this. So if I type in my npm start right now, all right, again, it may very well come up and give me an error, which is okay. All right. So this is running on 3000. Again, it may come up with a black screen that gives me errors because I still have there. You still have those two errors that I have to fix. All right. But, and I can't do it. I can only have one terminal running in here, but I can come in and I can go into my MERN app. All right. And from the root here, I can right mouse click and choose Git Bash here. And I can come in and say npm run dev start and hit enter. And it says server running on port 5000. That may not seem like a big thing to you. It is, because this is the first time that we have been running our program on two different ports. We're running our client side on port 3000, and we're running our server side on port 5000. All right. And what we will end up doing, and hopefully we're going to get into this fairly early tomorrow. I'm not done yet, but what we'll get into it then is if I go out to npmjs.com and I type in here concurrently, all right, says run commands concurrently. Pretty popular, 3.65 million. And as it says, run multiple commands concurrently. All right. What we'll want to do is we're going to go and make some changes tomorrow to our package.json file. We're going to leave in there what's in there, but we're also going to add it so that we can concurrently run from the client side. All right. I'm not doing it now because there's an error in the client side, and that would just mean that neither one of them would run. But once we fix that, and we will, then we'll be able to do that. The advantage of doing that is I don't have to worry about one. I got to start this one. I got to stop this one. I got to start this one, etc. They're both going to be running concurrently. All right. All right. Let's see. I'm way behind here. I've been running off the top of my head, not off my notes here. So I'm going back down here to my notes so I can see what's going on here. So let's see. Okay, there we go. All right. I'm going to go for about 20 or so more minutes, and that's going to be it for today. So we will end up picking it up right here tomorrow. All right. So the idea is we are now transitioning over. So not only are you doing front end work, but you're also doing back end work. All right. So with that said, I'll even leave that up. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm going to go back into my program here. All right. And like I said, you know this already. I've already told you. I've got to fix the problem with this movie.js. I will take a look at it. All right. And keep looking at it until I get it to work. All right. But the next thing we're going to do is in our source, remember we've got a screens folder, and we want to open up, first of all, we're going to open up our home screen. Okay. If this works, and again, not totally until we get those errors fixed, but if this works, what we're going to be telling the system now is, hey, we want to remove from this source, we want to remove this movies.js file, and we want you to read it from here. That's what we're transitioning toward right now. So rather than having our data being on the front end, whoops, I don't want that. We are going to have our data be on the back end. And the reason, again, that is so important is come Monday, we're going to transition over, and rather than using a file as we have been doing for our inputs, we want to use a MongoDB database. All right. And we want to do it like that. All right. We want to create a collection that has those 10 or so documents in it and get that information from there. All right. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do in here is, let's see. Okay. Let's see. I don't have that line in there. I already must have removed it. Let's see. Well, in order to be able to do this, and you know now what this stuff means, we're going to put in here import React. Try that again. Import React. Come on. Import React, comma, use state from React. All right. And what we're going to do as we start to build this stuff is when we first do it, we're only going to include use state, and then we'll see what happens. And then we'll go to where we add to that use effect. So you can really, hopefully at least, see the difference between the two and how they're both used. All right. Now, right now we have in here const home screen, and we're just returning stuff. Okay, and that's been fine for what we have been doing. But again, we want to transition over, and we want to read this stuff. We want to have the front end read it from the back end. All right. So we're going to come in here where it is right now, and we're going to add this const movies, set movies, right? And that's going to be equal to use state, and this is going to be an empty array. All right? What doesn't it like here? Structure must have it. Oh, it's to home screen. And movies, set movies. There's use state. Oh, well, it went away. Okay. All right. All right. And eventually, too, the other thing that we're going to want to do, and we can do this right now and not add the code yet, but we're going to put in here, comma, use effect. All right. And we are going to do that, not at this second, but we are going to do it very shortly. And again, you can see everything that's in here, or a bunch of stuff in here that's grayed out. All right. It won't be soon. All right. So we did go into our front end folder and we added Axios. Okay. But right now, again, the problem is we are getting all the information that we're getting. And right now, all that information, we're getting it still from the front end. We don't want to do that. All right. If we went and ran this right now, just so you know, if I could fix that doggone error and we ran this, we'd be getting no output. Our 10 things that we're showing would all be gone. And the reason they'd all be gone is because of this. Remember, what that does in use state is that initializes our state to be an empty array. All right. And we're going to be telling it now to be reading from there. And since we're doing that, it's like the system will be confused. It'll be like, I don't understand what you're trying to do. All right. So it'll show nothing. All right. So let's go in and let's put in our use effect right underneath this. All right. So right underneath where we are, typically you put the use state stuff in first. All right. And then we're going to have our use effect. Whoops. All right. And in here, we're going to, well, we're going to add some detail right now, but what we want to tell this thing to do, all right, what we want to tell it to do basically is to fetch all the movies from us. So we're going to go in and we're going to make an Axios call in here to tell it to do this. Now, we've talked about what I'm about to say, we've talked about a little bit before, and that is when you come in and start to do this, there is a big difference if you were coming to this database with 10 movies in it, or if you were coming to the Internet Movie Database that potentially has 10 million records in it. All right. What I'm getting to is this could conceivably take some time. This could conceivably take some time. All right. And the reason that that is important, trying to look at this, and this looks funky. I don't think we need that, but we'll find out in a minute. All right. Is there are different ways of doing this. And what I mean is this could, again, potentially take some time. Since it could potentially take some time, what we're going to do is we're going to use async and await. All right. We've talked about before, we have gone over this, not in depth of coverage, but a little bit. We talked about the fact that when you do this stuff, that you can use callbacks, you can use promises, and you can use async await. The advantage of using async await over promises is when you use promises, you typically get a whole bunch of dot then statements with a dot catch at the end. When doing it the way we're doing it, we're not going to have to worry about that. All right. So we're going to call our own routine right now that we're making that's called fetch movies. Right? Oh, got that. Right. All right. I'm hoping that error is going to go away in just a second, but we'll see. Now it looks like I got an error, so I'm going to figure out where the problem is right now. Okay. Say fetch, not catch. All right. We're just about there. So give me a second here. We'll get it. Movies equals async. Data equals await. Get slash API slash movies. That is correct. This. MERN. Well, I've got an error in my syntax. Just so you know what's happening here. So let's go over that. All right. Use effect is basically called on an as needed basis when this is loaded into memory. So what we're saying here is we're creating fetch movies, and that's fetch movies is this. All right. It's this. All right. And what we're doing is we're making the call, but now we're going to be calling slash API slash movies, which in just a bit is going to be grabbing it from the back end. as opposed to the front end. And it's bringing it in, and it brings it in something called data. That's why we put it in a folder called data. And then we are telling it to set our movies based on the information that's in there. Now, when you do this, you can't just sit there and in here in our use effect like this, you can't put async. We had to write another function called, we call this whatever we wanted, but we had to write another function because that's where we put the async. All right. And this is the await. So this is what could potentially take some time. All right. So there is a problem right now, as you can see, there's a problem in my code. So I've got to fix this. All right. And I've got to go in and I've got to fix this. Now, believe it or not, you may not, but believe it or not, we made a lot of progress today. All right. And I've got to fix this. But what we want to be able to do next then is we want to be able to come in and start. We want to be able to come in and start running. All right. Basically, like I said, using concurrently, we want to be able to come in and run and have both the front end and the back end run at the same time. All right. After we do that, we're going to go back in and we're going to make some more changes. All right. Why? Because right now we're setting this up so that we can call Axios. You've already seen this. I'm not going to say it again. You already just saw it. All right. But not only do we have to be able to call Axios for all movies, we have to also be able to call Axios for a single movie. So we're going to have to basically replicate this. And where it'll change is instead of being called movies here, it'll be called movie because it'll be just one. Instead of being called set movies, it'll be called set movie. And it won't be an array, it'll be an object. And we will call fetch movie. And we will go to /API/movie, kind of what we just looked at. All right. And this will be set movie as well. All right. Now, I could put in a fix here, but I don't think it's going to work. And I know for sure it's not going to fix this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it a period right now. And tomorrow when we continue on, we're going to see if we can finish and make this run on both ends and grab the stuff there. And if there's still time after that, and I hope there is, we'll start on the actual work with MongoDB. All right. So I'll get this to work. I'm going to work on it right now to see if I can get it to work. Once I do, I will put it out there, and this will be version 3 or day 3 or whatever. All right. So you'll be able to take a look at that tomorrow. All right. And again, we'll pick it up there tomorrow. I will talk to you then.